if you need to jump off for whatever reason, feel free to do so. Um, right. First of all, I hope you all are safe and well, and sort of manage to start or are starting to resume life as it were, and getting back to normal. The purpose of this webinar is to talk to you about the new flexible furlough scheme that's obviously kicked off or is kicking off on the 1st of July. Um, it's to give you that clarity, because a lot of questions are around the first one revolved around what can I claim, what can't I claim, and obviously there's a lot of questions that arise off the back of that. So again, just a standard caveat, all advice is given to the best of our ability. This stuff is changing really quickly, and you need to seek proper professional advice before acting on any of the advice given in this presentation. If you're not a client of ours, we cannot advise you on your business specifically, but we're just sort of trying to run through the rules as they were. Again, feel free to contact us should you need any help. We'll be happy to help. So the agenda for today, and I appreciate this may not go on for an hour, so obviously we're all glad to have some time back in the diary. But the agenda is to talk to you through the changes or the key changes to the scheme and the key dates. Go through some worked examples, and finally have a Q&A session. So again, if you think of any questions as you go along, um, Mita, who's our head of payroll, uh, is around, and obviously I am around to answer those questions towards the end of the webinar. Um, so if we straight away jump into the key changes, so I guess there are 2 or 3 key changes, but before I go into that, I guess the question is, what has not changed? The maximum amount that you can claim is £2,500, so that's not changed. Obviously, as we go into September and October, that amount, that cap of £2,500 is going to get reduced, and we'll come to that. So the first key change is employees can be brought back to work for any amount of time. Previously, even if you did an hour's worth of work, you could not be furloughed. But as of 1st of July, you can be brought back for any amount of time and shift patterns, and you can claim for the coronavirus job retention scheme for the hours that are not worked. The second key change is the maximum number of employees that can be claimed is based on previous claims. So for example, if in May you had 20 staff being furloughed, if you had 20 staff on your books, but you only had 10 furloughed in either March, April, May, or June, then the maximum you can claim, maximum number of furlough staff you can claim in July is only 10. So it's important to note that that's the maximum, and that's your first check on that. The second check on the new scheme is to do with minimum wage. So the new national minimum wage applies when I think they overlooked that for the months of April through to June, or March through to June. But from 1st of July, the new national minimum wage applies if you are getting people into work. There's also one other change that's there. From 1st of July, there is no longer a requirement for furlough periods to be a minimum of 3 weeks. I've just picked that up from the detailed legislation. There's no requirement for a minimum of 3 weeks. That would have been done in April, May, or June. If we move on to some key dates, so 30th June, the scheme closes to new entrants. So no new employees can be furloughed. And the 3-week period basically started 10th of June. So if you've not put anyone on furlough by the 10th of June, you cannot furlough them for the purposes of the flexible scheme anymore. 1st of July is when the new furlough scheme starts. So this is the flexible furlough scheme. And on 31st of July, that's the last day to submit claims for period ending before 30th of June. So these are on your old scheme where it was all or nothing. The last day to make those claims is 31st of July. I think obviously for our clients, we've been doing it as we go along. So hopefully there shouldn't be any sort of ones that have been left behind. 31st of October at the moment is when this Corona job retention scheme closes. So again, it's the last time you'll be able to claim for any furlough on the 31st or sort of for the period to 31st of October. Uh, After that, you've got to make that decision whether you want to keep the employee on or are you making them redundant. But that will all be at your cost. Just a word of warning there: if you are thinking of making anyone redundant, please do follow the redundancy procedures and the guidelines around that. Check your contract, speak to your HR team or HR department, or alternatively contact us and we will try and help you. So if I can now hand over to Mita so that she can go through a few worked examples. Mita, if you want to unmute yourself, there you go. Over to you, Mita.
Okay, I presume a lot of clients have already got this. Basically, for the Max's challenge, let's say the maximum is still 2,500. It reduces because the percentage claimable will be decreasing from September and October. September is 70% and October 80%. Employer NI and employer pension is claimable up to July. After that, from August, it's not claimable. But if you're eligible for employment allowance, then that is again considered to claim on your wages when you submit RTI. And next one, Charlene. Okay, the first example would be if you're earning as a monthly salary of 2,000 per month, then you have it reduced. Will work for 2 days, so you have out of working for 5 days. The calculation is worked out as per the screen. So you get 2/5 of 2,000, and which the employer has to pay. 3/5 of that 2,000 at 80% is then claimable. So you'll get a gross of both together 809.60 of 1,760. The employer pays the employee, and the claimable is only 960. In July, you'll still again be able to claim the employer, NI, and a pension. In August, no claimable of a pension and NI. Thereafter, obviously the percentages are decreasing, so you can see that in August you get 960, which would be the same, but no NI and pension. In September, it reduces to 70%, so 840 is claimable, and in October, 720 at 60%.
So just to add, the amount that you would pay your employee would still remain at a gross pay of 1,760.
Okay, so we have a second example, which is on hourly basis, which an employee works 40 hours, let's say £10, and working 5 days a week. So if you work out the monthly salary, it would be 1,733.33. And if an employee is working 16 hours per week, then we just work out how much the employer is going to pay for those working hours. Then you deduct the amount from 1,733.33, giving you 874.67, 80%, which is claimable. Your total gross is going to be 15167, which will again stay the same. It's just the percentages that will be changing per month from September, October. Example 3, it's for variable hours. The variable hours per contract will, again, you have to use the average that was used previously for all the employees who are furloughed. And from that average, you have to reduce the hours that they have worked using the same example as number 2. So if they work 16 hours, then you have to reduce that amount from the variable average already been worked out. And the percentages again will remain the same as what the example 2 says, and from September 70% and October 60%.
So very important. I'm just sort of looking at some of the attendees. A lot of their employees will fall under example 3. To emphasize, it's based on the average that they have been claiming on a furlough basis. So it's the average up to, or it's the pay as at February, or the average up to February, whichever is higher. Whatever that works out at, say that works out at £1,000. If they've worked £300 worth of time in that, then £700 is subject to furlough, which is at 80%, whatever that works out as, or in September it's 70%, in October it's 60% of that £700. And that's what you will be claiming back. I hope that helped to sort of round that example up. Mita, if we look at some of the common questions that we've been getting on from our clients over the course of the last 3.5, 4 months, and also leading into the new scheme, the biggest one that we've been getting, or one of the most common questions is, what if my employee is on maternity and coming back? So an employee that is returning from maternity or paternity, for that matter, can be furloughed despite not being furloughed before. The only change that will apply to the employees that work for an organization, so the only change is that particular organization should have previously furloughed some employees. So if you're an owner managed business that you are furloughed, that were on maternity and now coming back in July, August, or September, unfortunately you can't furlough yourself because you never furloughed yourself prior to that. Holiday pay. So workers who've been placed on furlough continue to accrue statutory holiday entitlements, and any additional holiday provided fall under their employment contract. More importantly is that holiday pay is at 100%. So if you sort of force me to take annual leave during the course of June and I'm on furlough, you only have to top me up 20%. So the 80% will be paid by the government and you top up the 20%. Documentation. So again, keep evidence that employees have been paid under the scheme would still have been employed if the pandemic had not happened. Businesses should ensure that they have detailed records of their decision as to why they believed they were entitled to access under the schemes, and make sure you also document your conversations with your members of staff. Mita, there was a couple of other questions that arose this morning through various emails. If you want to sort of pick those up, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to put them on the slide.
One thing you have to remember is that if the staff are employed again to come a few hours, make sure you talk to them and give them a contract saying that these are the hours for the furlough flexible scheme that you're doing.
Yeah, sorry, I've just got a question. I'm going to go back to example 2. Apologies if we were too quick on that, but I'll just quickly go back to example 2. So employee earning working, that's contracted to work 40 hours a week at £10 an hour. That's £400 a week multiplied by 52. That's, equivalent to £1,733 per month for a 5-day week. From 1st of July, you reduce their working patterns to 2 days a week. That is equivalent to 16 hours per week. So the calculation on that is 16 times 10 times, we've assumed 4 weeks for that month. So that's £640. So that's going to come out of your pocket because that's the hours they've worked. They were supposed to get 1733 a month. So take off 640, that leaves you a balance of 1093, of which you can pay them the full 100%, of course, or the 80% equivalent is 874. Therefore, the total gross pay is 640 plus 874, which is 1514. The amount you claim back in July is 874 plus the pension and national insurance if applicable. For August, it's just the 874. For September, it drops to 765, so it drops by 10%, and then a further 10%, a further fall of 10% in October. Sorry, in September, it dropped by 10 and a further 10% in October. Again, with no claim back for pensions or employers' national insurance. Any other questions? Any other sort of, Mita, if you want to go through any other questions that you may have been receiving around furlough? If there is, if there isn't, that's fine.
No, it's I think it's mostly covered. It's basically, remember, the employment allowance is claimable from only after the employer, the NI and pension is not claimable. It's from September. If anyone's doing the wages, just ask them if you are eligible for it.
So just, sorry, Mita, just to emphasize what we've been doing for our clients for the months of April, May, June, and July, well, June, sorry, we've not been claiming employers' employers' allowance, the £4,000, because if the employees were furloughed, they could claim back this employer's national insurance. However, if we had claimed that, we would, if that was claimed by the employer, they wouldn't have been able to receive that back from the government. So intentionally, we've postponed the claiming of the £4,000 to a later date, and I think that later date will probably be July now, or sorry, August, as the employer's national insurance is not claimable back from the government under CJRS. We've got another question here that says, did you say we issue a new contract for the hours we bring them back? So it's worth double checking with the HR department. However, as a safety, I would not be issuing a new contract, but rather sort of having a conversation with the team member or the staff that this is what we are doing and this is what your pay is likely to be, and documenting that. It is more it's more an annex or a sort of side agreement to the contract as opposed to a brand new contract. I hope that answers that. Any more questions from anyone else? I mean, we're still here if you want to sort of ask around those questions, that's fine. If not, again, the team should be well versed to answer those questions as and when uh, as and when they arise. So hopefully that should be okay.
A lot of questions will also still arise when we start doing the flexible furlough, and as Shailene had said, that it will be changing as we go along. It's fast changing information from HMRC, so we will keep everything updated as we come along to it. But remember, minimum wage does apply to everyone who is coming back into work.
I think Bharat had a Bharat, if you unmute yourself and you can perhaps add to, because I think you had your hand up. Apologies, I just picked that up.
Yeah, okay, fine. Well, I don't know whether you can see me or not. I'm not sure what's happening here. But the main point I wanted to make was this, I don't know whether you emphasize this thing about from July, you will not be able to part furlough anybody unless they've been employed for 3 weeks. They've been furloughed for 3 weeks. And this is your last chance to put people on furlough from this month, and at least for minimum 3 weeks.
Yeah, so we mentioned that for someone to be, they have to have been furloughed in the past, so that's April, May, or June. The deadline for applying the first batch of furlough was the 10th of June. So this is this point here. So for them to be even under the flexible furlough, they have to have been furloughed in the past. Well, as of 10th of June, at least they should have been furloughed once. The only exception to that is if you've been on maternity.
Or paternity,
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the main point that I wanted to emphasize. But other than that, people seem to be happy. No more further questions.
Yeah, I have a couple of other points to make. The decision on furloughing still remains that of the employer, and it is not the choice of the employee. Although, of course, discussion to find a good outcome for all is recommended. And it's also still permissible to fully furlough those who are shielding or with childcare needs. Again, subject to them having been furloughed prior to 10th of June.
and if you're claiming for SSP at any time, you cannot use that in conjunction with furlough. So you have to take them off furlough in that period of time.
Yeah. And I think the last bit to add to all this is, again, it's good to get in contact with all furloughed employees to explain what you are doing, so that no one's in the dark. And the last thing you want is any headaches. So I've just got a note to say, can I repeat what I said regarding it being the employer's choice? So remember, it is the employer's decision. I'm finding the right terminology. The decision to furlough someone still remains that of the employer. So it is the employer to choose whether if they should be furloughing someone or not. It is not for the employee to say, I want to be furloughed. It's for the employer, although we say that it is good to have communication or to find an outcome that is recommended for everyone. I've got one more question.
Sheldon,
No, that's
I
it. Yeah.
think your video might not be on.
I know I've intentionally not, because I'm sharing my screen. I'm sharing my screen. Otherwise, you'll end up
Yeah,
getting half the screen.
okay,
But
fine, fair enough.
but I should be here now.
Yeah, you had
Yeah. It's not a robot talking. Any other questions from anyone? We're still around, so feel free. If not, again, we'll be sending out the recording of this webinar. If not, again, thank you for your time. A lot shorter than planned, but hey, that's great, because hopefully this should be straightforward. Although when you look at the detailed legislation, we all know it's not. Feel free to get in touch with the payroll team, or Meeta, myself, or Bharat, and we'll try and help you to the best of our ability. Thank you. Keep safe, and hope to see you soon. Take care.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. All
Bye.
take care. Bye.
Bye.